Good morning. You are watching the Murphy Medical Minute. You're watching the Murphy Medical Minute. Thanks for joining. Today I'm going to go over a couple of masks that we have. We're going to go over a little mask hygiene. Some interesting data has come out in regards to masks and vaccination, and probably masks and infection, right? So we're going to have to review those things. But first, we have to learn a little bit about masks. So today, we're going to go over masks, and we're going to talk about N95s. We're going to talk about KN95s and all the fake counterfeits that are out there. And we're going to review a little bit of mask hygiene. Welcome aboard. You're on the Murphy Medical Minute. So today I want to talk about masks. It's a very important thing. I wear a mask every day in the field. In fact, from the very beginning, we were lucky. We got donated a massive amount of N95 Moldex masks, which are probably some of the best masks out there. Interestingly about those masks, they were bought by a HR firm in New York City. They were bought by an HR firm in New York City. We would not have been able to do anything with masks because we had some, but not a large amount of N95 masks without this donation by Christine Tully and her family, right? And her firm, her HR firm. They had hundreds of masks that they donated to us that we were able to wear on site. And we reused the masks. Now, continuously reusing of masks causes mask breakdown. When we talk about masks, it can get very confusing, right? The masks that everyone was making in home ec, they're called cloth masks. Those are called cloth masks. The second type of mask we have here, this is called, if you can see it right there. So you see that wire in that mask right there? Can you see that wire? Right, so this type of mask is called a procedure mask or a loop mask. Loop because we have these loops on them right here. You see these loops? Where do you see these loops? Right, so a mask like this is worn in such a way that you fold the wire, you put it on your nose. Fold the wire, put it on your nose. Now, ideally, a mask like this should not have openings on the side. Should not have openings on the side. So one of the ways that you can really fix that is you twist the mask. You see that here? Do you see what I just did? I took this mask and I twisted it. So you can twist the mask, one twist, two twists, however many twists you need to do, right? You turn it and turn it and turn it and turn it and turn it, right? Until you need to get it tight on your face. Do you see how I did that? And you still have a little hole here. You still have a little hole here. That's why it's not the most effective mask, right? It's not the most effective mask. But that is what we call a procedure mask. This is a procedure mask. The next mask I want to show you is a KN95. Now, there's lots of hullabaloo about KN95s. The most important thing about a KN95 that you need to know is whether it's real or not, right? Whether it's real or not. So there's an agency called NIOSH, right? NIOSH, that certifies masks. And if you don't have NIOSH seals on your masks, you can't believe that these KN95s are real. You just can't believe that they're real, right? So again, further proof that we're all in this together. An import-export firm, from the Middle East, helped me acquire these masks. We bought thousands of them. We bought thousands of these certified KN95s from the Middle East. They're amazing masks, right? And so you can see again Let's see if we have focus here, right? So you can see this mask. It's called a KN95, and it's got a very, very nice wire seal here, right? So it's got a very nice wire seal here. And then again, the loops, right? You see the loops, both sides got the loops, right? So we got loops here. So the loops go on this mask like this. All right, you put the mask on like this. Put it like this. And then you loop these over. Now the joke is a lot of people are the Grogu ears, right? You got Grogu ears. I don't know if you guys can see that, right? You see a little Grogu ear, right? So you got a little Grogu ear here. So these are KN95s. These masks should form a tight seal on your face. Form a tight seal on your face, and you should not feel air come out, right? If you feel air come out around here, right? If you feel air come out around here, it is not a tight seal on your face. So then you need to go like this and pinch the wire onto your face. You pinch the wire onto your face, right? And so that's an easy way to do a lot of these things, right? It's this sort of mask is what a lot of people are wearing. We found that the effectiveness of KN95s is better than your procedure mask, but it's not as good as the next mask I'm going to show you. The next mask I'm going to show you. And I'm going to show you this other mask because these are the ones that we wear all the time. We do wear these in the field, and often what we'll do, and we were double masking before the CDC said it was cool to double mask. We would take this mask and put it over that mask. It would hold it a little bit tighter, right? It would hold it tighter. And if we got virus from here, right? If we got virus onto here, we wouldn't take this mask and bring it home. So this outside mask would technically, it would protect your inside mask. So that way you could wear this mask over and over and over again. So you can see here it really wears on the ears. And one of the biggest problems we have in wearing masks is we have skin breakdown on our ears and skin breakdown on our nose. When wearing these masks, we wear these all day long, right? So that's the KN95 mask, right? So you got this a KN95. You see the number right there. KN95 mask, right? Ah, yeah, the ring. Yeah, the ring's pretty cool, right? I have a Oro ring. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of those before. I don't know if you watch what I'm doing, but I'm going to set up my Periscope now because these guys will start the old live stream for the Periscope right now. We'll go live because I promised my Periscope viewers, which are the viewers that I've had forever for this entire year. So if you want to watch my trials and travails through the year, you can watch them on Periscope. March 2020 till current, right? So Periscope's going away at the end of March, so we transitioned everything over to YouTube. Let's see here. There they are. Hey, guys. Look. Oh, yeah, that's right. I've got my YouTube channel up. So, for my Periscope peeps, welcome aboard. We're talking about masks. We're talking about KN95 masks, right? The KN95 mask. We're talking about the surgical loop mask, the loop procedure mask, right? And then we are talking about the N95 mask. So you see this N95 right here, guys? Do you see this guy? All right, so I want you to take a look at this. This is molded mask. This is molded blown plastic mask, right? It's a KN95. It looks beautiful on the outside. Beautiful on the outside. I want you to take a look on the inside of this mask where I'm breathing. You see that? You see all of those stains? Right? This mask is a mask that I wore from March. I wore this mask from March until May. This was my March till May mask until the elastic straps broke. They're all broke, right? You can see that here, so they're all broke. So this mask is an interesting mask, right? This mask, you can see the seal. I'm just going to tighten it like this so you guys can see that, right? So we'd have one loop here. We'd have another loop up here, right down here, right? Can you see that? You see the mask, right? So these types of masks, let's see, they squeeze the face, right? See how they make it puffy and push it out? They push it out like that. But what they do is they form a perfect seal around your face. The N95 masks form a perfect seal around your face. See, there's my broken strap right here, right? We wear these masks all the time. We wear these masks all the time. The problem is they break, they wear down. It's very tough to get these masks. Christy Tully gave me these masks in an act of generosity. In an act of generosity. And we need to see more of that these days, right? We need to see more of that act of generosity. God knows how many healthcare providers' lives she saved. She saved those lives by donating these masks. And we put them to good use, right? Look, you can see the inside dirt of that mask. Inside dirty mask, right? So I want to talk a little bit about what the CDC is talking about, right? They're talking about different mask types. They're talking about different mask types. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about what not to do with a mask, right? And so one of the big things, I don't know, right? If you go to a restaurant, first off, you're crazy, right? You're crazy. I've gone to a restaurant before. I've eaten outside at a restaurant, at my friend's restaurant, because I know the people in restaurant business are suffering. They're suffering. If your waiter ever comes to you, and I saw this, right? So, I don't know how you do it, but you wear a mask like this? Like, what are you doing? What are you, a minor? Are you a minor? Right? Who wears a mask like this? Right? If you have a face shield with a mask, I can see a face shield, right? I've got some cool face shields, right? So does Titus of Rome, right? You want to watch a guy, go to Gladiator and watch Titus of Rome. Caesar, we salute you. Right? And ready to go to work. Dude, you don't wear a mask on your forehead. Right? Number one. Number two, I like how he's got his mask on his arm. It's like he's a sommelier, right? He's like a waiter in the sommelier coming in. Oh, it's a vintage. It's a fine vintage of COVID-19 for you, right? I mean, you don't do that. Right? You don't do that, guys. Right? And lastly, in a big hat tip to all the disinformation out there, someone believed a face shield without a respirator, would protect you magically from a virus that gets inhaled into your lungs, right? Why? Because of droplet theory, right? Droplet theory, which we now know is bollocks, right? It's a droplet and it's airborne, and depending on the humidity and depending on the speaker and the projection gives you whether or not you're going to pass COVID along, right? Whether or not you're going to pass COVID along. So I really, really want to focus on this, right? I want to focus a little bit on where we're at here, right? I think one of the most important things about all of this is the mask type, right? Is the mask type. And so you got to look at the mask type accordingly, right? And one of the ways that we look at the mask type accordingly is we take a look at what the CDC has. Let's take a look at what the CDC has, right? So right here you can see that the CDC is talking about the different types of masks, right? We've got the surgical mask. For those, I'm sorry, on Periscope, you're going to have to get on YouTube, right? You want to follow the Murph and the Murphy Medical Minute, you got to get on YouTube. So we are understanding the difference between the masks, right? We have surgical masks that I showed you and N95 respirators, right? And lastly, what we're seeing is the elastomeric half face piece respirator. These respirators are to be used in healthcare settings, but I've also seen them at a whole host of different places. I've seen them at grocery stores. I've seen them all over the place, right? These are the masks that you want. These are the masks that you want and you want to try and get. And frankly, yes, there may be a healthcare shortage, but that doesn't mean the public shouldn't get these masks, right? It's the public that is spreading this disease. It's not the healthcare workers. It's not the healthcare workers. So we should be taking care of the public, right? One of the big problems that I see and why we're not taking care of the public effectively is we're not getting enough vaccines into arms. Safe vaccines for the most part. Safe vaccines for the most part. For most cases, we're seeing hey, what's going on? I promised I would Periscope and YouTube out the masks here. So we talked a little bit. I'll recap, right? So we went over the KN95 mask. We went over the surgical mask, or sorry, the procedure mask, which is different than a surgical mask. Different than a surgical mask. You know, the surgical masks are non-biodegradable, right? So they're just going to sit around like plastic forever. And then the Moldex, or the molded N95 masks, right? The molded N95 masks. Now, one of the interesting things about the respirators and respirator protection, right? So we have to understand the fact that when you want to get a respirator, right, you have to take a look at the ones that are going to fit, right? We have these PAPRs, which are used in really for Ebola, right? We use PAPRs for Ebola, right? The N95s and the surgical N95s have to be, your N95s have to be fit tested. So it's important to get fit testing for those, right? It's important to get fit testing for the masks. Another thing that I want to get over, right, and I want you to remember is N95s traditionally needed to be thrown away after first use. Needed to be thrown away after first use. And one of the ways you can tell a fake N95 versus a real N95 is to look for filter designation and look for approval numbers. If you don't have, now all of those approval numbers on this mask were on the straps, right? They're on the straps. So even though it shows, NIOSH shows that most of the numbers are printed on here, right? Printed on here. In my case, they were on the straps, right? Moldex straps with the NIOSH on the strap, right? So we can know that. So you want to look either on the mask itself or on the straps to make sure that you don't have a fake mask. To make sure you don't have a fake mask, right? Because there are a lot of counterfeits out there. There's a ton of counterfeits out there. Let's see, I want to go to the CDC infographic here between the masks, right? And we already talked about that. We talked about that. So the next thing I want to talk about is the effectiveness of cloth masks and your guide to masks. So we're going to go here through this is what I really like, because the CDC has a really, really good set of guides here for what to wear with masks, right? And I think the most important thing that you need to know is if you're going to use a cloth mask, 2 masks are better than 1. Why? Because they fit tighter. They fit tighter. So 2 masks are better than 1. What we know is that they are a tighter fit of mask. And what the CDC put out now is said that masks are required on planes, trains, and automobiles, right? Planes, trains, and automobiles, public transportation, you have to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask. I think what's going to happen, and we're going to start to see it, is the people who've been vaccinated, we told them they have to wear masks because the first vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna do not, I repeat, do not have full evidence that getting a vaccine prevents transmission. And what we found with that, and I'll tell you, what we found with that is pretty remarkable. When we see that, what happens is put simply, because vaccines don't have data preventing transmission, about 1 in 3 Americans say they're not going to get the COVID vaccine. About 1 in 3 Americans are not going to get the COVID vaccine. Well, we have lots of different types of vaccines, right? So I keep saying right, I got to stop that. I can't believe that 33% of America won't want a vaccine that will prevent death and prevent severe disease. It surprises me. But then I take a look at how the press represents the adverse effects. This here is Loose. Loose had a significant issue, right? Loose, right here. That's Loose. So Loose had an autoimmune reaction due to the vaccine. And we see that because vaccines cause autoimmune response, right? The vaccines want us to make an immune response to the spike protein, right? To the spike protein. And we have right? Remember the spike protein, the hand, right? That's what our vaccines are making antibodies towards. They're making antibodies towards that hand. So we can't grab, right? We can't grab the cell and say you're infected. We can't do that, right? We just can't. So we have to understand that the vaccine resistance is real, and it's going to happen. And because of that, we're going to be masking forever. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to be masking forever. But I do believe that masks will come about during the seasonality of the novel coronavirus, just like they do in influenza, just like they do in a lot of Asian nations. In a lot of Asian nations, they wear masks. And guess what? The masks, they reduce influenza. Now, does that mean we're going to have a worse influenza when we get out of masks? That's for hot debate. So what I want to make sure everyone understands is these vaccines have the potential to do some really great things. I'm a big proponent of the J&J vaccine, which is coming out as we get the data on it. That's because it's a single shot vaccine that can be administered in emergency departments everywhere, can be administered in urgent cares, can be administered in doctor's offices. And frankly, I think there's a really great role so we'll never get out of masks. That's my joke, right? That's my joke, that we'll never get out of masks. We're going to get out of masks, but some people will advocate mask wearing during flu season. I mean, I'm telling you, we did not see influenza at all this flu season so far. We haven't seen it. And our tests at coronatestct.com, our swabs using the bioMérieux machines test for influenza every single time. We can't separate it. We can't take apart the influenza test from the COVID test because they're together. They're mixed together like a really good gumbo, right? Like a really good gumbo. You don't want to take them apart. You want to keep them together. Keep the tests together. All right. The next thing that we do is we look for variants, and you're going to see a lot more data on the variants, right? But what we know so far about the variants is simple. The EEK mutation, right? The E484K mutation that we're seeing in South African variant, the E484K mutation we're seeing in the Manaus B1128 variant, the Brazilian variant, that's a legit mutation. It allows for antibody escape. Remember, because the antibodies are to the spike protein. They're to the spike protein. And between the 300s and the 500s of this amino acid chain is where we're seeing mutations that enable you to escape the spike receptor binding domain antibody. And we're making multiple antibodies. The spike protein has about 20 different sites where antibodies bind. About 20 different sites, 17 to 20 sites, people think. Well, at one of those sites, there is an amino acid change, and that amino acid change leads to an ineffective antibody response. We are seeing that with some of these vaccines, with vaccine escape. This is why AstraZeneca shut down their trial. in South Africa, currently on hold because the AZ vaccine does not protect against the South African variant. But you know what does? Do you know what does? The J&J vaccine. The J&J vaccine prevents death and destruction. No hospitalizations or death. 100% protection at 49 days from the South African variant. Single shot. Right? That's the story. That's why it's so good. That's why I think that we really, really need to make sure that we are getting vaccinations in. And that's where the mask situation comes in. Right? So I want to have a quick talk, right? So I'm going to move my periscoper over here. Right, I'm gonna move my periscoper over here because I'm gonna go to straight transition. Right, so I want to go to transition. I want to talk to everyone. Seriously, talk to everyone. Right, thanks Hood Celebrity. I appreciate it. Right, I appreciate you guys watching me, Dr. Murphy, and coronatestct.com, our team at Murphy Medical Associates, where the bear means we protect our own. You're our own. My YouTube viewers, my Periscope viewers, you're our own. The Periscope viewers, you followed me from the beginning of March until now. The YouTube followers are going to follow me at the Murphy Medical Minute and this channel forever. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to address timely topics. Right now, the timely topic is COVID, right? But I am a board-certified internist and obesity specialist, right? Obesity medicine specialist, right? That's who I am. That's who I am. And I am dedicated to help people lose weight. Oh, thank you. I really try hard to give you guys practical data, right? You're going to have doctors, and I also promise that I'm going to stop using right so much in my broadcasts. I'm going to cut it out. Not going to use that word. It's a substitute for I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to keep cutting it out. So when you guys get me, ping me. So I want to talk for a couple of seconds about the fact of masks forever. My view on metformin, listen, metformin is a lot like, metformin's a lot like this KN95 here. You see that? Metformin is a lot like this KN95 here. What? There's a lot of counterfeit metformin out there. There's also a lot of metformin out there that has carcinogens in them, right? That is cut and manufactured with other toxic substances that can give you cancer. That being said, metformin has powerful anti-aging effects. Powerful anti-aging effects related to telomerase, relative to improving insulin sensitivity. And why this matters is because, you ready for who the super spreaders are? If you're obese or old, you're more likely to be a super spreader. So if you're obese or old, the best thing you can do is wear a mask. The best thing you can do is wear a mask. And I'm hopeful that we can cut obesity as much as we can. Right, so that we had cloth masks, we have surgical masks, we have procedure masks, we have N95s, we have KN95s, and then we have the gas mask respirators, and then we have PAPRs, right? Then we have PAPRs. Those are the hooded guys that you saw people wear. They wear them in the hospital, but they wore them for Ebola, right? You see, you can wear them for Ebola. But what we're going to face now is not just a pandemic of COVID, but we're going to have a pandemic of obesity. We're going to have a pandemic of obesity, and we're going to have to spend a lot of time cutting down. Right, KN95s are not more effective than an N95. The NIOSH approved N95 is 95, it removes 95% of particulate matter at very small microns. The N95 is better than the KN95, significantly, right? The KN95s, really, they've been studied. They're anywhere between 50 and 75% of reduction of particulate matter, right? My view on statins. Man, listen, today is mask day. If you want statins, we'll pick a day. I'll put it on the Murphy Medical Minute, and I'll put it on Periscope before Periscope goes away. We'll talk about statins. We're not going to talk about them today. Listen, everyone thinks they're a panacea because they reduce inflammation. Not all statins are good for you. Not all statins are good for you. And pharmacogenomics, gene-drug pairs, influence that. Now, back to masks, right? Are we going to be in masks forever? Well, the CDC just said that if you are a healthcare worker and you've been vaccinated and you're exposed to COVID, you don't need to quarantine anymore. You're bulletproof. You're bulletproof. If you're a healthcare worker and you've been vaccinated and been exposed to COVID, you're bulletproof. Go back to work. So there are so many counterfeits out there, right? Where should you source your supply of personal masks, right? As an anecdote, right? And I think this is a very good point, right? Where are you going to source your masks? Where are you going to source your masks? If you can get access to a medical distributor like McKesson or Shine or BD, that's a great way to start. The second way is to look for, as I said before, with the N95s, there is NIOSH approval is printed on them. On these masks, it was on the strap. But on most N95s, you'll see the numbers printed along the bottom. Those numbers tell you that they're a real mask. I don't think you see that with a KN95, right? Do you see those anywhere? No. And that's because they're often on the wrappers. They're often on the wrappers of these masks, right? That's where we see that, is on the wrappers of these masks. And good luck. You're not going to get any sort of stuff here that's going to be printed on the procedure mask. You see them, you can get them at gas stations. But I really think the procedure masks that we have, this is what the CDC is advocating, right? Cloth masks and procedure masks. You see how I'm doing that? You see how I'm twisting that? That makes for a tighter wrap. A tighter wrap. And that is how you get better enhancement. Now, the CDC has studied that. The CDC has studied that if you twist these guys, it gives you better protection. The problem is, see here, there's still puckers. There's still puckers. So one of the ways that you can fix the puckers is you put another mask over top of it. And in fact, the CDC also studied putting pantyhose over your head. Yeah, like as a kid, you pretend you're a bank robber. You put the pantyhose over your head, smush your nose, and go, stick them up, right? But that you'd pull that hose down, elastic hose down, on the mask itself like this. And you know what they found? You know what they found? I know it's crazy. You put pantyhose over your head. Here's what they found. Here's what the CDC found. If you wore pantyhose over your mask. You ready? You're going to be blown away. Hey, I'm so blown away, I had to take my glasses off. So blown away, I had to take my glasses off. It's just as good as a KN95. Pantyhose plus the mask, one of these little masks, just as good as a KN95. Just as good as a KN95. So you don't need to go out and source KN95s. You need to go and sort out and get your little silver eggs from Pantyhose and Playtex. Go get your Playtex eggs. There you go. You get your Playtex eggs, you cut the top off, and you go stick them up. Stick them up. And you too can get just as effective as KN95 mask. Just as effective as KN95 mask. So back to the fact, will we be masking forever? Will we be forced to mask forever? Right, so I'm going to answer that question about storage of masks after I give this point right here. They asked, how should we store our masks? So I'll talk about storage of masks in a couple of seconds, but I want to talk about masking forever first. I don't think we're going to mask forever. I think we're going to mask for quite some time. Think we're going to mask for quite some time. And then after storage, we'll talk about cleaning. Masking is going to continue as a cultural phenomenon to prevent from getting COVID. People are going to choose to mask. In public transportation settings, planes, trains, and automobiles, we're going to mask, I bet we're going to mask mandatory masking because we have to get the airlines back up and running. We're going to be masking for at least another year. I would be surprised if we didn't have another 12 months of masking on planes, trains, and automobiles. Planes, trains, and automobiles. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Wouldn't be surprised at all. In amusement parks, in high-density concerts, and all of those things, we're probably going to mask. Now, look, we can talk about the Super Bowl and how when people get drunk, their masks come off. That's part of the reason that they literally shut down bars. Because when you're drunk, you don't think. You don't think. Masking on a plane. I already felt claustrophobic. Right. So there are going to be a lot of people that are claustrophobic on planes, and when you put a mask on, it's going to be even worse. It's going to be even worse. There will probably be anxiety on planes, and people will not fly. It's just like medical offices. Anthem they reviewed 40,000 claims, right? 40,000 claims. And they found that the people who had COVID that ended up in the hospital had over 10 times the bills, some cases 100 times the bills. So insurance companies are going to have to deal with the fact that they've got to pay for outpatient care, early outpatient care. They're also going to have to deal with the fact that they're going to have to pay for, exactly, masking is better than the alternative. And I think they're probably going to have to pay for helping out these other industries, right? Insurance companies made record profits. They're going to have to help these other industries out, right? I think insurance is going to pay for part of these sorts of things. So claustrophobia on a plane, you're going to have less people flying. You're going to have less people flying. Instead, they're going to be taking trains where you still got to wear a mask, or they're going to be driving, right? They're going to see a lot of people driving, which means there's going to be more gas demand. There's no doubt about it. But you're going to have to wear a mask in public places, especially closed public places, which is why they closed restaurants and bars, because how are you going to eat through a mask? You put a hole in the mask. Oh, well, then it ruins the mask. You can't eat and drink through a mask. You can't eat and drink through a mask. And what we found is super spreaders spread when they eat. Super spreaders spread when they talk. And we found the bigger super spreaders are obese and elderly. The obese and elderly more likely to be super spreaders. More likely to be super spreaders. So we're going to have an issue at restaurants. We're going to have an issue with public transportation until we can prove that there's some sort of herd immunity going on. What do we need? How much percent do we need? 70%? I just told you 33% of America they're not going to get vaccinated. 33% of America is not going to get vaccinated. And then we have to have a science and reality check here. Do we have vaccines for the common cold? Do we have vaccines for common cold? There are alpha coronavirus common colds. There are beta coronavirus common colds. We don't have a vaccine for it. We don't have a vaccine for it. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen with this virus? Are these vaccines going to be terribly effective long term? We've tracked data, right? I've got a great set of doctors that work with me, and we track the data on antibodies, and they last 6, 9 months, 9 months, 10 months. We've got cases of people 10 months. Antibodies. They got antibodies. So we have to assume that the B cell and T cell response is hardy enough to keep them immune. But what happens every year? I don't know about you. This year I got two rhinovirus infections. 2 rhinovirus infections. These coronaviruses, people get common colds all the time. You hope that it's just the rhino and not the coronaviruses. And you hope you can make enough immunity. This is all a grand experiment, guys. This is all a grand experiment, right? Murphy's Medical Minute is now on minute 38. So it's kind of crazy. So I'm going to have to cut it off, guys. But before I cut it off, I want to talk to two things, okay? The first thing I want to talk about is storage of masks. Dry, cool places. Dry, cool places, that's where you should put your masks. Dry, cool places, all right? Heated places, there was this thought that you overheat. I even watched a video where they said you put hot air in your nose, right? In a baggie. So at hospitals, we store our masks in brown paper baggies. Hospitals, we store our masks and our shield in brown paper baggies. I can tell you right now, probably one of the best things to do with a mask, if you can. And there were a couple of sterilization units and companies that started in the very beginning where they do a pressed hydrogen peroxide through the mask at high pressure. Pressed hydrogen peroxide through the mask to disrupt viral particles. You could totally do that. Spray the mask down with hydrogen peroxide and let it air dry. That's probably the best way. In terms of cloth mask, first off, you can't wash this mask. You can't wash this mask. and you can't wash this mask. So don't try and wash those masks. You'll ruin them. You can't wash them. Hydrogen peroxide in water, right? In a 1-to-1 condition, you spray it with a spray and let it air dry. Let it air dry. One of the things that we do, like I told you, is we take our N95s or our KN95s and we double mask, right? So I double mask. I'd put a mask on top, right? And you know what I do with the top mask? You know what I do? These top masks, because they're a pain in the butt, I just throw them away. I just throw them away. You can get them anywhere. I just throw them away. If you can't afford to throw them away, spray them down with a hydrogen peroxide in water solution. 1-to-1, let them dry. Exactly, a whole stack of them. So another thing you can do is you can rotate masks, right? The quarantine period, which by the way, if you've had a vaccination and are exposed and are a healthcare worker, the CDC says no longer quarantine. Why? We need our healthcare workers. But it was a 14-day quarantine, then there's a 10-day, then there's a 7-day, you test out, all sorts of randomness. So I'm not going to give you the randomness, but I'm going to tell you this. If you get 14 of these little masks and you just rotate them, in a 14-day, 2-week cycle, any virus particles that should be on the mask should be dead at 14 days. Dead at 14 days. You can store your mask with UV light, right? I've got this really cool planter, and when I finally can vlog and get a mobile camera out there, I'll vlog a little bit more. I'll show you how I grow plants in the house with UV light. You can use a UV light to disinfect the mask or the hydrogen peroxide solution. Both of those are good ways to do that. Both of those are good ways to do that. So hopefully I answered how to clean and how to store masks, right? Those are the two issues I had. Are we going to mask forever, right? Are we going to mask forever? No. But do I think the cultural phenomenon of masking, totally other stuff, especially bacteria, saliva. I mean, look at, you want to say other stuff can gather on masks, right? This is 11th hour blessing saying, can you gather on masks? Look, man, right? Look, I get dirt on masks, right? And stains, dirt and stains on masks. You can't wash them. Don't wash the good masks. Air dry them, hydrogen peroxide water. UV light, sterilize them, right? Sorry, I got to wrap up, guys. I got to wrap up. I've been on here way too long. It's 42 minutes. 42 minutes of the Murphy Medical Minute. That's crazy. You get into it, you think it's a minute. Now we're at 42 minutes. All right. I love you guys. It's Dr. Murphy, Murphy Medical Associates, and our team at coronatestct.com. We're also in Maine at coronatestme.com. We're in Colorado at coronatestco.com. We're in Utah, coronatestout.com. But our main site is coronatestct.com. This is Dr. Murphy, Murphy Medical Associates, and our team at Corona Test. Thank you very much. I want to thank all of you. You guys be safe too. We're not going to mask forever, but we will have some cultural masking that's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. All right? And that's okay because masks prevent disease. Masks prevent disease. Vaccines prevent disease. We're all going to be safe. We're all in this together, guys. I love you all. Stay safe. Thanks. The Periscope peeps, you'll be on a couple more seconds. I'll tell you a couple more things. To my YouTube peeps, this is the Murphy Medical Minute. Dr. Murphy. To my Disney peeps, stand clear of the closing doors, please. Remember, we are made to be well. Our bodies, our human design is made to be well. If we take care of our diet, if we get out and exercise, if we stay away from refined sugars and processed carbohydrates, we can enhance our life, live a longer life, live a healthier life, and be well.